Three, two, one.
Hello, 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 beautiful people listening to this podcast, unknown people, friends, family, grandmas that were forced. Hi, how are you doing? I'm Ermis. This is Yet Another Expat, the podcast where I bring thoughts, news, and all of that. I recently heard the term stream of consciousness, and I think it can very well describe sometimes this podcast. I get the questions, how much do I prepare? Do I have a script? How do I go about it? And the answer is, well, it's a little bit of improv. I have a few points and I let my mind wander, and we are all witnessing how that looks like. But let's get started. This is episode 42, second episode of the year. 42 is a great number. The answer to life, the universe, and everything, delete, at least according to the beautiful book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Lovely, funny fiction. If you haven't read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, maybe you should. If you keep listening to this podcast, you might probably enjoy the book. 42 is or might be the answer to life, but this podcast is surely not that. But I'll fire it up and bring some of the things I collected this week for your ears only. Starting with a very random one, I tried to keep my inbox a bit free. I don't know how many emails you have, which ones you've given up on because they just receive so much junk that you don't even bother. If you try to safeguard one good email address that has something closer to your name and surname rather than Pixie Fairy 91 or whatever the first email you had might be. But as I was going through emails trying to unsubscribe, delete, put things in spam and keep a little bit of tidiness, I saw some emails coming from Ralph. Now, Ralph is a guy who's hosting a sweet backgammon group and tournament. And there was a time I competed at a backgammon tournament because why not? I was here in Germany and I was convinced I'm so good at backgammon, playing only with friends or at Greek vacations, that I thought I want to play some backgammon here in Berlin. And then there was a tournament and then I signed up. It was not even a normal tournament. It was a speed tournament. So that was a funny one. But this little segment around backgammon, if you don't know it, it's a game with dice where you move things around. It's like take a chessboard and then turn it upside down, make the inside hollow, and you kind of have a backgammon. So I had this uncle in the island of Icaria, where my mom's side comes from. And this uncle, I want you to imagine him always sitting at this patio, this veranda outside of his house. It was on a cliff. So he was actually looking at the sea, and he would sit there in a chair that could barely support him. Uncle was voluminous, with the backgammon open. It was like, do you know these games where you can just go anytime and then start playing? This was him, always an open invitation. He was smoking Karelia, this Greek brand of tobacco, the white Casetina. And back in the day, those cigarettes, they had a small paper print inside with a funny comic picture. I have no idea why, but I was very excited every time he would open a new package because I could get the new funny picture and see if it's the same one with the package before or not. But he was always there. I think he was a retired fisherman or he worked with boats, and I could always go and play with him as a child. But let me tell you, he fit every bit of the stereotype. No sentimental stuff whatsoever. No kid kindness, none of that. He would beat me again and again in backgammon with no mercy, with no teaching, nothing. I could just, if I wanted, I had the option, go sit beside him in that chair, have the backgammon open and look at the sea while I get destroyed in backgammon again and again and again. But we live at the top of this very, very, very steep cliff. So there wasn't a lot you could do. If you wanted to go and play with the other kids, that was an investment. You could do it once a day because then you had to stay down where the normal people lived for a long time until the very, very tiring way home. So it was interesting. It was still an interesting thing to try and entertain me with, playing backgammon with him. But it was exactly how AI gets trained. I don't know if you've seen any AI training, especially maybe these, how do they call them? biological algorithms, life algorithms, where you just start, you give it a goal, and then it doesn't know how to do it, and it starts banging its head on the wall until it realizes, if I don't bang on the wall, then maybe at some point I pass through a door. That sounds good. Let's see what happens next. I will bang my head on the next door until I realize, another door. So it's a very slow training process. It takes a gazillion time of repetition. It's like life evolving, But slowly but surely at the end, you tend to understand what you need to do, how the system works. This is how I learned. It was painful. It was like a Miyagi, wax on, wax off, Karate Kid situation. I lost a gazillion times until I could slowly understand what it takes to be good at this game. No advice. He would punish every single mistake. He would enjoy beating a 7-year-old child or a 9-year-old child. I was not more than 12, that's for sure. But with tears, I managed to get pretty good at backgammon. Then I played some in my uni years, and I always consider myself really, really good at it. Probably a result of the mental abuse of getting destroyed hundreds of times, thousands of times every summer. So completely oblivious. Fast forward, I'm 30 years old in Berlin, started living here, and I was like, hey, backgammon, that was fun. I think I'm the best at this game. So I want to play with someone, looking it up. There's a tournament, sign up. And I was so excited to go there. I remember I was talking on the phone with my family as I was arriving, and I was saying things like, yeah, I'm gonna go there, teach these people some backgammon, show them how it's done. And I was saying all of that in Greek because speaking Greek, I had the confidence that no one can understand what I'm saying. And I remember being ridiculously, stupidly cocky about how I'm just gonna go there and teach them. And then someone from the walking by me said, Kalimera to me. And that's when I realized you should always be careful when you're bad-mouthing. But anyway, I played this tournament. It lasted, I think, around 7 hours. It was one of the most stressful and intense things I've done recently because it was a speed tournament and because in Germany, they don't roll the dice from their hands. They have this little box that you need to put the dice in and then put the box down on the table. I guess as a way to make sure that no one is... I just realized the volume wasn't very up on this microphone. I hope this is not a crazy change. But yeah, I guess they don't trust throwing dice with your hands like it has been done forever. You need a little cup to put them in and to throw them down. And the thing is, with time, you had very few seconds in which you need to grab the dice from the other player, put them in your box, move the box, put the box upside down, remove the box, play your turn, hit the timer. And if you're not used to doing all of this cup situation, that can be very stressful. But I started, and actually, I won the first person I played with. They also had this system where you can challenge to double the value of the game, and the other person needs to either accept or resign, which is a very interesting mechanic. And that was not something I knew exactly how to do. I will spare you the details. Apparently, they told me I have a specific style of playing that is seen more in the eastern side of the world. And so I win the first guy. He even told me at some point, why don't you challenge to double me? Like now you're too far ahead in the game. That's the time you should challenge to double me. So he was nice. He taught me one or two things. He was a bit understanding that sometimes where the throwing the dice from the cup wasn't working. But this is where the nice people of that tournament would stop, because the next person I played with was this hardcore woman that, by the way, they all had these backgammons that costed multiple hundreds of euros, extremely expensive. I didn't even have one with me, so I would always play with my opponent's set. This woman had a camera, a GoPro that was on top of the backgammon, and actually this was the case with a lot of players. They were recording every single game so they could analyze their moves. Yes, that is correct. In backgammon, they also had with them books where they would write every single move. Like they thought this is like chess. They thought that this is a smart game like chess. And I have nothing wrong with all these geeks wanting to be the best, but I realized actually that this woman was in the top 3, I think, of Germany later on. Like this tournament that I went, there are not too many backgammon tournaments going on in Berlin, So it was actually the thing where the best players gather. These players would travel together in other locations of the world to compete in world tournaments. So this is where I found myself at, in case I didn't make that very clear. So I start playing with this hardcore woman. She's writing all of her moves down. This is wild. She's wearing noise-canceling headphones, and she has this very determined face, I would say. So we started playing. She was extremely annoyed, like if I didn't do the cup thing correct, and I had to redo it. And here's the funny thing. Now, in this place where the whole tournament was happening, which was a big cafe that was closed down for the day to do this, when I walked in and everyone looked at me like, who the fuck are you? And I said, I'm the random guy who signed up for this. I also had to pay quite a bit of money to sign up, but I was very confident. So I paid, I think it was 70 euros to participate. The owner of that cafe looked at me and then he was like, where are you from? And I said, I'm Greek. And he said, let me show you something. So he takes me by the hand. He gets me to the back side of the cafe. This is an entirely true story, by the way. He gets me to the back of the cafe where there is a glass door. He opens the glass door. I could not see inside the glass door because there was so much smoke in that room that I had no idea what's happening. So inside that room are some, how should I say, seasoned from life. Like when you have done a lot of kilometers in life, that starts showing in your age, in your face, in your whole physique. So there were some old Greek guys that were playing some card game, smoking an insane amount of cigarettes. They might have been Karelia as well, and they were just doing their own thing in the back, smoking and playing poker, or I don't know what they were playing. So the dude says to them, "Hey, this guy is Greek," and they all started being like, "Hey, hello, little boy. What are you doing here?" It's like, "I came to play at the tournament." You play at the tournament? Are you any good? And I was like, I don't know. I think so. Maybe. Okay. So park that there because these old washed off people, okay, they had been through a lot. You could see it. They were very excited that a Greek is playing in the tournament. Now, watch what happens as I'm playing with this hardcore lady that gets annoyed even if I don't know, move my finger at the wrong time. As we're playing, the worst one of that group comes over. He looks very friendly, but also like he had a lot of hangovers in his life. And he looks at the board and he tells me, "Are you winning?" And I look at him and I say, I had already won the first game, by the way. So the woman was extra annoyed. And I tell him, I think so. And then he says, "Why don't you do this?" And he says a completely wrong move, like something you cannot even do. I think he was just enjoying himself. And I'm like, no, this is not. I got it. Thank you. And then the woman throws a tantrum and she starts making a scene. And she asks someone to come over. And she says that I am getting advice from this drunk old guy that doesn't know anything about the game. And she wanted to disqualify me because of that. And I assured her that he's telling me nothing useful. If anything, he's being a distraction to me. But she was not having it. The old dude went back to the smoke room and he wished me good luck. And then with this woman, it got quite intense. And in the end, I won the whole series. And she was so annoyed. She tried to dispute a move that had happened, and I assured her she thought that the pieces were in a different way. They were not. She could see it right after. I think the people of the tournament got a little bit uncomfortable that the one new guy that they have, I was kind of like fresh blood. There were people there that were happy to see someone trying this out. They got a bit worried that this very competitive woman with her noise-canceling headphones and her strict manners was clearly annoyed at me, but she lost, boo-hoo-hoo, and then I continued to lose every single game. But this was it. It got pretty close to me achieving something. At the end, I was happy I lost all the other games because it already took about 7 hours. People were having lunch there, and I don't know what I expected, but this was the only time where I tried to join a tournament. They told me I play really well, and if it wasn't a speed tournament, then I would probably have done even better. They told me I should consider being a part of the group. That was good enough. I gave my email, and this was 3 years ago. And Ralph still sends me Backgammon emails. He still messages me for every tournament that's upcoming. And I just love this small community type of vibe. Ralph is the guy organizing them. He has spreadsheets and computers and a lot of notes. And I don't know if they pay him somehow for his time. I think he's a pensioner that just enjoys this community. But if anything, I have to say I was humbled by not being the best player in the planet like I thought. Surprise, surprise. But also quite impressed by the top level that these people had, bringing their GoPro cameras, analyzing their moves, writing them down, and then between games, just analyzing where they did a mistake. Another piece of news, we had one more SpaceX launch, and I'm only mentioning it because it had a lot of goods and bads. So the good thing is that they managed to catch the huge rocket back. They're trying this thing where the booster returns and it doesn't get destroyed, and they've tried to land them on their own. They've tried to land them on ships, and now they are trying to land them in the catcher. It's a huge steel tower that has two, let's say, claws, and the rocket, the booster, returns there, and the claws just kind of catch it. If you haven't seen it, you can look it up, which is a smart way, because landing something so heavy on its own, just on the ground, is probably impossible. So there was this big rocket launch test, and the bottom of the rocket returned safely. It managed to land, and the big thing managed to catch it, which is only the second time this has happened. This is a new technology. It also has a very Elon Musk inspired name, like this catcher. It's called something like the Catchzilla, or I don't exactly remember the wordplay is done. But the interesting part is that the top part of the rocket exploded. It exploded in thousands of pieces at the edge of space. So then all of these were in trajectory and they came burning down. They came burning down in such spectacular manner. They painted the sky. You can see a lot of videos of the debris raining down. And especially in some of these videos, it's a bit sunset time. So actually all of these flaming meteorite-looking pieces falling down like rain from the sky. They paint the sky, and it's a very spectacular thing to witness. Now, at the same time, it was not very spectacular for some little islands where some of these things managed to land. The truth is that most of these things burn as they enter the atmosphere. They catch fire and they keep burning, and most of them never even arrive. Some pieces still did. They landed littering some small islands, and a lot of the flights around the area, they had to be diverted because, imagine flying an airplane and then you have raining fireballs of metal coming down. So, you win some, you lose some. You win a rocket you can catch back, you lose the rest of the rocket. You win 200 more billions, you lose democracy in the US, day in, day out. The last thing around this that I find extremely funny is how, sometimes people avoid using the word everyone thinks of. Do you know how they call when a rocket explodes? Like when the spaceships, when all of these things that they're launching, every now and then they don't make it. They go up and then they explode because they're testing things. Instead of saying that the rocket exploded, they say, and you can find this everywhere, that it had a rapid unscheduled disassembly event. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't language beautiful? A rapid unscheduled disassembly. Yeah, I mean, I've watched disassembly videos on YouTube. Let me tell you, if it's so rapid and so unscheduled that the disassembly happens in the split of a second and there's nothing left to assemble back, maybe it's just an explosion. But sure, whatever makes you sleep at night, you can call it a rapid unscheduled disassembly event and feel better about it. 2 more pieces of news and we wrap it up. Number 1, do you know 3M? This company that does, a shit ton of things, but most likely known for sticking things together. Like they have tapes and Scotch tapes and Post-it notes. And every time I buy something that it has a sticker on it, I bought the other day a sponge holder for the sink. Because now I'm past my 30s, and inside the sink, I like to have a little sponge holder. So the sponge is not rotting at the bottom of the sink and not being annoyingly around at the top of the sink. So his little sponge holder on the back, he has this sticker. You need to take it off and stick it somewhere. Every single sticker I've seen in my life is 3M. It's a huge, huge brand, blah, blah, blah. What happened now? They make a lot of things. One of the things they make is firefighting foam. You know, the kind that puts the airport fuel fires, the nasty stuff, it puts them out. And it turns out this firefighting foam has been connected with forever chemicals. What are forever chemicals? There are these nasty, nasty, nasty things, little things called PFAs, and it's a type of chemical that doesn't break down in the environment. It will never go away. It is, yeah, you guessed it. You're right. You guessed it. We are in the microplastic universe of things. The world is getting a bit more educated around PFAs. How did they manage to get everywhere from the ice in Antarctica to the snow in Himalaya to our peepees and poo-poos and hearts and brains? They're absolutely everywhere. How do we clean them up and how did they get there? Apparently, more and more stories like this are coming up. And the big thing about it, it's not that they made a firefighting foam that had PFAs inside and we know that they destroy the environment and they cannot. We only learned this recently, right? We didn't knew that it's so extended that these microplastics have been linked with health problems, with cancer, with immune system issues, with birth defects. Well, apparently 3M knew about the dangers of these chemicals since the, drumroll, the 70s. Do you remember? You don't. We were all, I know the demographics of this show. None of you remembers the 70s. We were not even conceived. This is 55 years ago. Well, they knew since then, according to leaked documents. But you know, they kept selling and selling this firefighting foam anyway, because money. And it seems like they were more interested in profits than safety regulations. So this now has come in the light. And of course, the question is, what are they going to do about it now? Well, your guess is as good as mine. No one really knows what to do or how to specifically punish them. And of course, no one knows how to even clean the PFAs. One thing's for sure, their reputation is going down. And this podcast is helping do that because I don't know how explicit the settings I have are in order for me to curse, but this is the type of evil things people should pay in afterlife for. So they're trying to put that fire out. Let's hope they don't do it with some forever chemicals. Ha, ha, ha. But yes, cleaning these PFAs and what we do about it will be a major thing in next years. In Europe, cleaning PFAs from drinking water and soil could cost up to 100 billion years in the next 2 decades. And that would skyrocket up to 1 trillion if things are left at their own fate without any projects. Netherlands is doing a lot of projects to remove PFAs, spending millions and millions. Those things include removing soil. Like they're digging soil out, maybe removing the first 1 or 2 meters from places that have been close to plastic and PFA facilities because that soil is very contaminated. And it's interesting, they're trying a lot of different things, but trying to make the polluter pay because a lot of times it's textile factories, is specific, it's an old airbase, it's all sorts of facilities that work with PFAs, and those are just the ultra polluted places. But they cannot make the polluter pay because it doesn't apply, as some of the responsible companies are no longer even operational. So the Dutch government is paying millions and millions for different PFA cleaning projects, and they actually say these costs are just the tip of the iceberg. They know that PFA contamination exists in multiple industrial and defense sites across the country. But one thing is cleaning PFAs, one thing is stopping PFAs, and yeah, I think the world cannot agree on a lot of things these days. At the end, they say there will not be enough money in the world to remove all the PFAs from the environment. So we'll see what we'll do. Maybe a mutation will save us all. Now, in the very, very last piece of information I will share with you, remember how the SpaceX exploded and you could see the debris falling from the sky and it looks like this meteorite shower with the blazing fire trail behind it? That must have looked really, really cool. Now, in probably the coolest news you will ever hear, do you know Tutankhamun, the Egyptian guy, the emperor of Egypt. So Tutankhamun had an iron dagger made out of a meteorite. Yes, that is very, very true. They have analyzed the dagger they found at his grave. It's ridiculously beautiful. You can look it up, how that iron dagger looks like. And the metallic composition clearly indicates it was made from iron ore from a meteorite. Now, I just want you to imagine being the ruler of the Egyptian Empire, a pharaoh, which at the time had, godlike powers. You've seen the structures, you've seen the astounding levels of worship that they had. Now imagine looking at a flaming meteorite entering the earth on a dark night, seeing this thing come from the skies, pointing it with your finger and saying, go find that thing. Something fell, a gift from the gods fell down, go find it and bring it to me. And then you take this metallic piece. I mean, there must have been a crater created. Like it's a crazy thing. I don't know what story they would have connected with it. And then you make a sword out of it to kill your enemies with meteorite metal. How wild. So that's the news. The material has been shown to originate from space, and you can piece the story together in your head of how that came to be found and to be molded into a dagger and to be given to Tutankhamun. And on the quick wiki, he was the last Egyptian pharaoh from his royal family. He ruled during the end of the 18th dynasty. This was at, I think, 1400 BC. And the crazy thing is that it's all these thousands of years. His tomb was found in 1922, which is 3,500 years almost since he died. That's insane to put it into thought. We live in 2025. Imagine someone finding a tomb in 5,000 plus. Like it's not even, you can't even conceptualize. But the discovery caused a frenzy at the time because it was a tomb that was not sealed. Is that the verb? They haven't found that tomb before. They hadn't stolen the things from inside, because this is what happens in almost every old tomb. They don't make it until now. You only find ruins. You try to decode who could have been there, but all the items throughout the centuries, they get eventually stolen. Not in this one. There were 5,400 items in the tomb, which included a solid gold coffin. Can you imagine that? A solid gold coffin. How much gold was brought and molded into that? There were face masks, thrones, archery bows, trumpets, chalices, a lot of gold, a lot of furniture, and a lot of food, wine, fresh linen underwear. And amongst all of this was this blade made of fine gold with rock crystals and a blade made out of a meteorite. So there you have it. These have been the news of the week. I have been Ermis, and if you want, the very last piece is that Instagram has started showing to your friends which reels you like. So be careful out there. Be careful on the reels you like, because they will start showing up to your friends with a clear indicator. And Instagram is experimenting creating a separate feed that will only consist of reels that your friends have liked. So if you're not on Instagram, good for you. If you're still there, be careful. If you like this podcast, remember to rate it 5 stars on Spotify, to press follow, to press the little bell, just do something about it. It helps me get going. I have been Ermis. You have been you. Have an amazing week and see you next time. Ciao.